I'm not so sure. I teach business. Okay, don't agree, Mark. Okay, so we're going to get started. This is our fourth and last workshop for ideas and impact. So some of these slides I'm going to go over, you've seen, but the people on Zoom may not have seen. So again, we have two tracks. The first being innovative idea focus, what traditionally we called single bottom line, focused on profit. And again, that is not bad because a lot of people, including the gentleman who just donated $55 million to name the School of Public Health, made money focused originally on single bottom line, as has Gates and a bunch of other giant philanthropists. The second track is social impact, which is multi-bottom line companies and nonprofits. Okay? Why enter? Lots of reasons. You get feedback. So I'm sorry, remind me, and Diago? Yeah, okay. So sorry, I got you confused with someone else. I should know you. You're in class. So I'm sorry. In addition to having no technical expertise, my memory is like that of a caterpillar. Okay. Elephants remember everything, right? It's caterpillars that don't remember anything. Okay, good. Okay. So Tiago was saying, well, his idea is not yet mature yet, so he's not going to be ready for this competition. And I very strongly encouraged him to submit because this is for very, very preliminary opportunity identification and potential solutions, but you're going to get feedback by 4 to 5 expert judges, people who, I shouldn't say judges, reviewers who have been very successful. We'll talk in a minute. There's free mentoring available Friday and Monday via Zoom. And it's a great opportunity just to get feedback and refine your ideas. And you could also win some money. So everyone associated with Temple at all is eligible to enter as long as you haven't won more than $5,000 in other competitions. And I don't think anyone that is here has revenue of $2,500 or more. And if on Zoom you do, wait for the be your own boss ball. All right. So there is total prizes of 10,000. Any individual can win up to 2,500. A couple interesting things. If you become a finalist, there's a $500 crowd voting People's Choice Award. So if you're a finalist, invite everyone in your family, brother, friends, enemies, neighbors to come so they could vote for you for the People's Choice Award. Again, how we rate submissions, it's very straightforward, elevator pitch, opportunity and problem, competitor status quo, which we learned about 2 weeks ago, right? Your solution, customer, user, shareholder impact, and what's your plan for addressing the unknowns? You're not supposed to know everything. You never know everything, but just what people are looking for is you have maturity and the sort of rough analytical skills to say, hey, here are 1, 2, or 3 issues which are pretty important that I know nothing about yet because this is very preliminary, but this is how I plan on learning about them. Make sense? Any questions? Okay. So obviously the portal's open. Expert mentoring, we should be getting out by tomorrow the schedule for Friday and Monday, so you could sign up. You'll each get probably 15 or 20-minute slots with 1 or 2 mentors to provide you feedback. Deadline is Monday night at 11:59. As I've said 100 times, don't wait till 11:55 to try to submit, because just like the Philadelphia roads during this SEPTA issue, Startup Tree will be jammed Monday night at 11:55. I guarantee you. And I want to talk, put it on your calendars, November 14th. What would you rather do on a Friday than spend the day here, hopefully presenting if you're a finalist, but if not, listening to your peers and judges and being fed throughout the day? So the final showcase, November 14th, come at 9:30. We'll feed you and you get to network. And if nothing else, a great reason to come on the 14th is networking. From 10 to 12, we'll have pitches and judging. 12 to 1, we're going to have lunch and networking. And at 12:30, we're going to have a keynote speaker. It's not absolutely confirmed, but we're hopeful of someone extremely newsworthy within Philadelphia at all, the Philadelphia region. All right. And then the social impact pitches and judging will basically go 1:30 to 3:30. We'll feed you a little bit in the afternoon, some Philadelphia snacks like pretzels or tasty cakes or something. And then we'll do a wrap at 3:30. And if you can't be here all day as much as you'd like, just try to come for a couple hours and come for the lunch and keynote speaker. Okay, so that we already talked about. Okay, so for suitable and what's Fox? FDLP, Fox, well, that's right, it's switched, Fox Forward. Scan those so you get your credit. Everyone good? Okay. Okay, so I now like to introduce our guest speaker, workshop leader, Devon Harris. Did I say the last name right? Okay, Devon Harris. So Devon, talk about networking, was referred to us by Bonnie Ravina, who did the Know Your Competitors talk. And he's got a really interesting background. Looking for someone who could talk about funding and financial sustainability on the for-profit and not-for-profit side is a fairly difficult challenge. And Devon fits it beautifully. In a prior life, he was a venture capitalist, and he'll probably tell you a little bit about that. And now he is working with Mom Your Business, and he'll describe a little bit about that. But we're very lucky to have him. He has a ton of expertise. He's nice, he's funny, he's energetic. And other than that, he's here. So give Devon a hand.
Oh, for Zoom? Okay. See now, okay, this works. Cool. Well, because he gave this really nice intro, I'll just quickly explain myself. Devon Horace, I used to work at Nike headquarters doing brand activation, pop-up shops throughout North America. So I did work in IT operations, and then I left that and became an investor. I was a principal at a VC fund in Oregon, and now I'm just became an angel investor. And I met Bonnie through my program that we offer at Mom Your Business, which is a nonprofit that helps Black and Brown entrepreneurs here in Philadelphia. I met Bonnie because she is actually one of my fractionals in a program that I have called MYB Fractional, where we pair entrepreneurs with C-suite executives and we match them and we like have one-on-one coaching and mentorship over a quarter. So let's say Bonnie, she acts as our fractional CMO. So if someone is interested in marketing and they're a business and they're like a little stagnant in their journey, we match them with Bonnie to see like, how can we scale your marketing plan? We have a CEO, COO, CFO, LMNOP, all the fractionals. We have them. So if you're interested, we could talk about that a little later on. Before I get started, where are we in this journey of entrepreneurship or nonprofit? Like, are we just getting started? Is it like you've already filed it, or like where are we so far? If just a raise a hand, I could get who's on the business side, for profit. Okay, all right. Where are you so far in your business? All right, cool. So you know majority of this stuff. And what about nonprofit people? Nonprofit? Okay, where are you in your nonprofit journey right now?
Yeah, just getting started.
Just getting started? Okay, cool. Okay. I want to make sure that I'm giving you guys giving you all like examples that is digestible. I don't want to be jumping out the window and you be like, okay, I don't know what this guy is talking about, right? I just want to make sure that you understand what I'm saying and it's easy to follow. Cool? All right. So let's just jump right into it. Why should you care about financing? Both for-profit and nonprofit. Why should you care about financing? And this is interactive. I just want us to flow and talk. So if anybody got an answer, why should you care about financing? Just start shooting some things out. Why? Pay the bills? Absolutely, right? Sustainability, love that word. We're going to talk about that. Incentive, right? Why? What else? You was going to say something? Oh, okay. I thought you said something. Yes. To grow the company. Okay. So let me see if my clicker will work. Cool. That's all right. Let's go here. No? My clicker not working. All right, there we go. Thank you. So here's a few reasons why I think you need financing, right? If you don't have your finances in order, do you have a legitimate business? Think about it. If someone is coming to you, which we'll talk about the different financing pathways, if you're just like, oh, I just collect money, it's like, do you have a business bank account? Do you have a nonprofit account? Like, how are you keeping these things in order, right? And for our nonprofit people, nonprofits need financial structure to get funded. Okay, when you're going out for grants, which we would talk about, when you're going out for foundations and different kind of donors are asking you things like, they're going to say, well, let me see your financials. They want to see your budget. What is this money going towards, right? We're going to talk about that. And then lastly, investors and donors fund ideas backed by strategy, sustainability, and solid financials. Now, like I said before, I'm an investor. And when I see someone's business or their nonprofit, if I want to donate, I'm like, okay, the idea is cool. Where are you so far? Let me see your numbers. If you interact with anybody when you get to that stage and they're an investor and they don't ask you to see their number, you get up and leave. Okay. All right. So let's look at an example of a company, right? We all familiar with this company? Yes, us here, we know this company? Okay. So they start as a blog, right? And built a community before they built a product. Okay. Then they focus on consumer insight and brand trust before scaling, right? Scaling is a whole nother thing. But they bootstrap early stages, which we're going to talk about that. And then they raise from a venture capitalist. All right, so that's just one example. So we're gonna play a little game here. Myth or fact? You need rich investors to start. Myth? Myth? That is a myth. Many founders start with less than $1,000. Okay? So here's a great book I would recommend. I always do book recommendations. I like to read. I like to absorb the content. Now, we live in an era where the book, well, Audible, it'll just read it for you, YouTube, all the AI, right? ChatGPT, you could get all this information, but some information is left out. Like some information in the world you can find in books still. So I highly recommend you still crack open a book or two here and there. But the $100 Startup is a book that I have and I highly recommend because it shows you different ways on how people started their startup with just $100, $0, like very less than what people think it takes to start up. So here's some financing pathways we're going to talk about today. We got bootstrapping, angel investors, venture capital, bank loans, crowdfunding, accelerators, and CDFIs, community development financial institutions. Okay? Does this all sound familiar so far? Everybody, this sounds good? Okay. All right, let's get into it. So bootstrapping. Bootstrapping is self-funded. You're starting a company and you're using your own personal funds or revenue that you've received from the business, right? You have a business, right? So when you're bootstrapping, let's say I have a food truck, right? And I need money to buy this food truck. I'm going to sell food and vend and do things in order to raise that capital to buy the truck, right? This is just self-funded money. Or let's say that I have a job somewhere else and let's say, where do I work? Let's say I work here on campus, right? In the library. But that money that I'm receiving during that time, I'm using that to start my startup or my company or even fund my nonprofit for my nonprofit people. I didn't forget you in the back. We're going to talk about nonprofits. All right, angel investors, that is me. That's me. I'm an angel investor. Angel investors provide capital to help you scale your company. But angel investors, we use our own money. So this is money coming out of my own pocket. And the thing about an angel investor that a lot of people can take advantage of and have taken advantage of is that they come with expertise. So they could be like a mentor to you for your business, right? They can connect you with resources. They can help you with ideas. And like I said before, we have the program MYB Fractional that pairs C-suite executives and entrepreneurs. I'm just using my angel capabilities and connecting these businesses with other resources. So that's why an angel investor can be a good person on your team. But I want to say this, an angel investor, and we'll talk about the other investment, but they do take a percentage of your company. All right. So when you're thinking about financing, then we have venture capital. We have some of the big names up there, Sequoia, A16Z, Lightspeed, but VCs invest money that they raise from LPs, so limited partners, and other foundations and big money people, and they invest in high growth, high potential startups. So when you're thinking about receiving financing from a VC, this is normally at a stage where you actually can prove you have revenue. Now we're not talking about the Silicon Valley people. Like they have a whole ecosystem there where they don't even have an MVP and they just be like, hey, I need 10 million. And it's like, great. But in real life, how this really works is that once you actually have some momentum in your business, you have some flow, then either a VC would approach you or you would approach a VC. And these are the big money people. These are people who are going to invest like 5, 10 million, but they are going to want to stake in your company, right? But this is when a VC approach you or you're approaching VCs, that's how you know you're ready to really scale and really hit like the Airbnbs and the Ubers. You're at that level, right? Okay, next we have bank loans. Now, I'm sure we're all familiar with bank loans. Bank loans provide all kind of financing, whether that's for working capital, equipment, expansion. You could get loans from like a line of credit, the SBA loan. But here's the thing with bank loans, and I always like to say this to all my entrepreneurs, all my founders that I speak with. I have a love-hate relationship with the bank, okay? They charge interest rates and you're like, ugh. Then they're like, we want to see your financials. And it's like, is it secure, unsecured? It's like, we'll give you this loan, but I want a house. It's like, it's capital available to you, but also it comes with its challenges, right? Or it comes with the thing that it comes with. Now, if I was to advise anyone, I would say go bootstrapping as long as you can. And this is coming from an angel. I invest in companies. And I tell my founders, I say, bootstrap as long as you can. And then when you need to seek money to grow your business, then use these different avenues. Okay. Crowdfunding. Speaking of avenues, speaking of bootstrapping, I would put crowdfunding in a category kind of adjacent to bootstrapping. And I say that because when you're thinking about crowdfunding, you're pooling a bunch of money together from friends, family, people who believe in your goal or your vision. And what do they get back? They don't get equity. Let's say they get like a backpack, or they get like a branded hat, from Thank You, right? We got a few names up here, right? Kickstarter. How many people are familiar with Kickstarter? That's a very popular one. Okay. WeFunder. Have you ever heard of that one? Okay. WeFunder. That's a great one. I invested in a few companies there. Republic. No. These are all crowdfunding websites, sources that you could go to and deploy your idea and have people fund you. Now, here's another thing. And I say this to founders that's really getting started. You can sign up for more than one crowdfunding website. So you could do Kickstarter, you could do Start Engine, you could do WeFunder, and just collect money. The goal here as a founder, and we'll get to nonprofits, the goal here as a founder is that you want to get as much money as you can. Get the money. Get the money, right? Yes. Yeah, sure. So that's a great question. So they're not so different between what they offer. It's really just a UX and then amount of visitors per site. Again, Kickstarter is a very well-known, crowdfunding source, but also you have WeFunder, which I found companies on. I tried to go to different platforms to find deals and find different initiatives, but Kickstarter is what had the most eyes on it. So if anybody here was looking to go the crowdfunding route, I would suggest you start with Kickstarter. Everyone knows it. Easy, click, go. You can, on your phone, is like Apple Pay. Is very, theirs is more, I guess, advanced or up to date from a UX perspective. But a lot of these are excellent or really great companies that you can explore, websites. Yeah. No. It's just like, here's your campaign. How much do you want to raise? These people are, funding you, and what is their incentives or investor perks for these people who are helping you raise, right? So same idea, not really much difference, but the amount of visitors and eyes. It's sort of like Uber and Lyft. It's like, all right, so we're cool on that. That was a great question. Thank you for asking that. All right, then we have accelerators. Have anybody looked into accelerators, thought about accelerators? Yeah. So accelerators are short-term programs that you participate in, right? One thing I think about is Techstars. I used to be a Techstar mentor. It's a program normally, between like 3 to 4 or 3 to 6 months, you would say, and they will help you through that entrepreneur journey. Just pretty much saying like LLC, filing, Delaware, C Corp, all the way through, and then help you with your pitch, because I've seen that you guys are going to be doing a pitch. They help you all the way through that cycle, but at the end, they give you some money. Now, some accelerators give you money just for participating. You got through. This is your incentive of graduating the accelerator. But other accelerators, some that I'm familiar with, like Y Combinator, what they do is they take you all the way through, introduce you to these amazing people, and they say, all right, you went through this, you use our resources, we want X%. That's how it works in that world, right? So don't be too shocked or surprised, but there are many programs within those accelerators that is like community-based or like student-based or just like very start level, where they just give you money, couple grand, and they be like, here you go, because you completed the program. So not all the time they ask for equity and stake, but if you are like one of the big players, they're going to try to get their percent. This is business. Huh? All right. So I want to briefly talk about CDFIs, right? CDFIs are specialized banks, more of your like credit unions, right? Small lender banks that if you can't get funding from a big bank, CDFIs are, I think it's like federal level, where they have given these community banks money for the community, for businesses that are, are part of the underserved community. And they say, hey, deploy this capital to help them grow, right? The whole mission or the whole purpose of a CDFI is to provide lending, resources, money, capital to underserved founders that, quite frankly, won't get that from the bank. So let's just say, I don't want to pick on a bank, but I'll bank with this bank. So, all right. So let's say you go to Bank of America, right? You say, Bank of America, I need $10,000. They're going to say, great, let me see your financials, right? That's why financials are important. So they see your financials, you get pushed through. They say, okay, we'll give you $10,000 for 10% interest rate, right? You be like, 10% is pretty high. Like the interest rates right now is 6.5, 6.7. They say, yeah, but we're taking a big risk on you. It's like, oh, okay. Valid. They have a business. Banks are a business, by the way, if you don't know. They sell banking, right? So when you look at a CDF, $1,000, and you're like, okay, let me see your financials. Okay, got the financials. Your financials are okay. There are some things in your financial that's, I can see why Bank of America charged you that. We can help you fix that, right? Then they'll say, all right, we looked at your financials and we can offer you a loan at 5%. How does that sound? You're like, oh, that's great. And not only will we offer you a loan, but also we will put you in our network, which other banks will see you as a qualified business, and we will then give you money. So it's a whole ecosystem, CDFIs. So here's the trick with this. Once you get funded by one CDFI, you're most likely to get funded by many others. All right? Yes. Yeah, so that doesn't exist in the ethos. There are going to always, this is how it works here. And this is, granted, again, it's a business, right? We have to think about that. We have to always think about that, right? But when they are giving you in this loan, they are calculating the risk. They have done this many a times with the big numbers, right? So they always ask for either collateral or they let's hope it don't get that extreme, but they like, seize your wages or like take assets, VCs, if you don't got the money, that's it. The VCs lose their money, right? And then they send a mass text out and be like, don't fund Devon anymore because he lost all our money. Then you have a WeWork situation. You don't want to. Yeah, so great question. So CDFIs, because this money is coming from, the government, and this is an incentive to help underserved founders, they understand complications may happen. They too are banks, so they take their calculated risk, but they're a lot more flexible, right? So yes, there is again, they are still a bank, right? So they may say, all right, like what assets do you have? Like machinery, a car for the company, etc. But they just won't come in and just, full on attack you. They're going to be a lot more lenient because they understand like the circumstances. And again, at the end of the day, they want their money as much as you want the money, right? So they're going to work with you as best as they can to make sure that not only you are secure, but their investment is secure as well. Yeah. 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 So let's go there really quick because that's now we're talking about like business 305 or something. But look, so the way that tends to happen, and I'm kind of going off script here, the way that tends to happen is that a lot of people, or unfortunately people, pierce the corporate veil, right? That's what they call it in court, the justice, right? So it's like, oh, in my LLC, I also pay for my haircuts and like my things, like certain things that are personal, you're paying out of your business. This is why it is very important to have a business account and your own separate personal account. Everything that's in your business, I don't know what systems y'all use. I use QuickBooks. I love QuickBooks. Everything that's in your bank account, all go to business expenses. Make sure you have a bookkeeper. Make sure you have an accountant. Those are the major players right there. I wish I went to school for that. I went to school for business. I love business, but I should have went the finance route. But when you do that, that's when they can seize your personal things. But if you are just operating out of your business and your business gets in trouble, they take your business assets. But it has to be a very clear line on what is the business and what is your personal. So that's why I always say to entrepreneurs, again, I'll jump back into this. That's why I always say to entrepreneurs, make sure when you're speaking on the behalf of your company or your business, you use we. Because your personal, like, oh, I am the founder of blah, blah, blah. And yes, it's very prideful. Yes, like you are building something. That is awesome. But it also can turn around and bite you in the butt when it's like, yeah, you hold all the responsibility for everything that happens. You, right? So if you phrase it as we provide, we help, you're speaking as a representative of your business, not as you, the business. Yes. Yes, that I would say always steer in the side of caution, right? So even if you're the sole proprietor in an LLC, you're a single member, no, when you do all the filing, yes. But again, you are representing the company, not you are the company. You know what I'm saying? All right, let's go back into it. All right, really quick, 60 seconds. Who want to give me a quick elevator pitch? Problem, solution, why it matters, what you need. 60 seconds. Y'all getting ready for a pitch competition out here, idea, just 60 seconds. Problem, solution, why it matters, and what you need. Let's go. Let's hear it.
a lot of businesses out there have a hard time adjusting to the current world of AI. So in my current business, what I want to do is take those small to mid-tier companies like $10 million or so and help them to integrate AI into their systems now, because they can ultimately not only save a lot of money, but also be ahead of the curve when it comes to their competitors. The last 2 years, or last year, Microsoft saved $500 million on AI, and I'm sure everybody's aware of what it can do for you. And I'm not quite sure what I need, though. That's
Thank you. Round of applause for your fellow entrepreneur. Round of applause. So here's a cheat sheet. One, you did a great job. What you're working on sounds very interesting. Cheat sheet. What you need? Money. I need money. That's what, whenever somebody asks you that, I need money. Then you say why you need the money. All right, that's for everybody. Nonprofit too. Like, what do you need? Like volunteers? Like, yes, volunteers would be nice. I would like some money. Or donation. That's how you say it. Donation. Speaking of nonprofit. All right, what is a nonprofit, right? A nonprofit is created to serve public or social missions. All right. But let's talk about the financial side of a nonprofit, right? For nonprofits, you are not generating a profit for owners and members. That is a company. Okay? And why is that? Because a nonprofit qualifies for a tax exempt. A lot of people who have nonprofits, schools are nonprofits, hospitals are nonprofits, nonprofits that help, clean up the streets, they have tax exempts if they file properly as a 501c3. Okay? Nonprofit, this is for you. Okay? Now, being a nonprofit, social mission driven. All right? When it comes to seeking finances for it or seeking donations, here's a tagline I always use. Hi, I'm so-and-so Foundation. We help clean the streets in the neighborhood. We are asking for donations for us to continue to do this work. And they said, I don't have the money. Well, did you know that your donation can be used as a tax write-off? Ding. Tax write-off. Wait, I get some money off my taxes? Yes, you do. You get money off your taxes. So a lot of donors, when you see them providing, let's look at McKinsey. McKinsey Scott, right? She gives out billions, right? It's all for great work. It's all for great missions. But on the other side of that, she got money people. She got accountants. She got tax advisors. It helps, right? So what else? A nonprofit has access to grants and foundation capital. Now, businesses have opportunities to access grants too, but it's not like a nonprofit. A nonprofit, again, is for the service of others, is very social mission driven. So those grants and those foundational capital, you don't got to pay that back. Now, I know we talked about that earlier where it was like, the loan percentage, things like that. For nonprofits, it's really a donate. It's giving to support a cause. All right. So here's a book recommendation for nonprofits. What's your name, by the way? Cheyenne Devon. Nice to meet you, Cheyenne. This is an amazing book. I read it more than enough times. As part of my consulting services, I help nonprofits with their strategy on how they want to be seen in the world and what they are offering to the world. But this is a great book. All right, let's look at a nonprofit, for example. Charity Water. Have you ever heard of it? Anybody? Yes, you heard of it? Okay. So this nonprofit brings clean drinking water to developing countries. Funded through donors, corporate partnerships, and public campaigns. All right. Now, the thing with nonprofits, which is a little different in the business side, because you can say, oh, my information is private. The more transparent you are with your mission, your finance, your budget, what you're doing with it, their motto is built off 100% like transparency. They say all of the money that they raise goes to the projects for helping get clean water to these third world developing countries. Okay, so now we're going to talk about the financing pathways. We have donors, foundations, government grants, bank loans, earned income opportunities, because nonprofits can actually earn money. That's something we're going to talk about. And then also CDFIs. Yes, CDFIs also help fund nonprofits as well. All right, so donors. Really, the whole list that I shared, they're donors. Donors are individuals, foundation, corporations that donate to your cause. Okay, they just make sure like they want to give out of the kindness of their heart. All right. Then we have foundations. We all know William Penn Foundation here in Philly. They give out a lot of money. So foundations are individuals, family offices, corporations that establish a fund, right? A private foundation to support charitable causes. So the difference between a single donor is, again, it's sort of like an angel investor and a venture capitalist. With a single donor, is their own personal money, or it's like we allocate this money from this pool of money we have, right? When it comes to a foundation, is more of a pool of money, or let's say Amazon wants to donate to this whatever school, right? That is coming from a source of a pool of money allocated to that nonprofit. All right. Then we have government grants. Now, how many of you visit the City of Philadelphia website? All right. Do y'all ever go there for grants? See? Yeah. Did y'all know that they offer grants there? So the City of Philadelphia have grants for nonprofits, right? They have many grants available right now. And also the Business Commerce Department have many opportunities and grants for entrepreneurs and small businesses. Now, I want to use this as an example. I don't work with the City of Philadelphia or the Commerce Department. I talk to them often. But there are resources here locally, right down the street from here, that you could tap into. There's resources here at Temple that you could tap into, right? I'm a resource, right? So again, government grants are funds awarded by federal, state, or local governments to support projects that provide public services, stimulate the economy, so on and so forth. What I like to really get into it with government contracts is that you have to be providing a social need. A lot of these contracts or grants, I call them, in the city, they're called contracts, but these grant opportunities with the city, it's like, what are you providing to the community? What need are you serving? Right? And for our small businesses, for the business department, they send out RFPs that you can pretty much put a bid in and tell what your services are, what you provide, and then if you win that, you know, you're in good hands. You get some money. All right. Game time. Myth or facts? Grants are easy money. Fact? Fact? Myth? 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 What's your name, by the way? Justin? Justin said facts. Easy money. It is a myth. It's a myth because you have to go through a process like all things, like bank loans, right? Because it's competitive. There are thousands tens of thousands of nonprofits out there. There are thousands of nonprofits in this city alone. They're all competing for the same dollars. No matter if it's for profit or nonprofit, we are all competing for the same dollars. So, sorry, it's a myth. All right. Myth or fact? Nonprofits can make money. Nonprofits can make money. Myth or fact? Myth? Myth? They can't make money. Fact? Myth? Myth? So I said something earlier, it's a myth. They can earn revenue and reinvest it. A lot of people hear nonprofit and they're like, oh, well, I guess I just receive money from people and I just give it all away. Yes, and you can also make money for your nonprofit by earn income opportunities. So money a nonprofit generates by providing goods, services, and or programs for a fee. Have you ever seen nonprofits out there? Perfect example, the Girl Scouts. They sell their cookies. I love the Thin Mints. I don't know what cookies y'all like. The Thin Mint cookies, right? The Thin Mint. Justin, like, yeah. But they raise a lot of money by selling cookies. And then in return, they fund their scouts, right? Scholarships, badges, trips, things like that, right? But the Girl Scouts is still a nonprofit, all right? So if you see a bake sale or selling teas or 5K to raise money, that's a way that nonprofits are generating revenue to then fund their nonprofit. And I'm keep that in your mind because I'm gonna share something with you a little later about on that. So here are the must-know nonprofit financial tips. Number one, it's hard to get funds without years of financial data and a proven track record. So yes, if you're just starting off, it'll be a little challenging, but don't give up. And why is it challenging? Because nonprofits are ran like a business. And when you are seeking grants, when you are seeking funding, they're going to ask for your financials. They're going to want to know nonprofits still got to file tax returns. They still have to, yes. Oh, yeah, go ahead. Please share. Yep.
Yeah, so you're totally right. It is super hard to get funds your first year when you have no track record. But I just wanted to share two websites that we use very frequently to assess early startups, and that's GuideStar and Charity Navigator. You are looking for to be a non-for-profit, and you can get on those websites and kind of prove to them that you have a plan and everything and get rated on those websites, you're much more likely to be able to get funding from a foundation.
Yep. Yep. Thank you for sharing that. Thank you. Clap it up for your nonprofit person. So another thing is know what you need the money for, create a sound, practical budget, and make sure it's approved by your board. That last part right there, it has to be approved by the board, okay? If you're in a nonprofit. So again, why do I say that is a must-know tip? Because if you're out seeking money, the people who are donating to you, they want to know what the money is for, right? So again, using my example, I am a nonprofit. I pick up trash in my neighborhood. I'm not going to say $10,000. I need $2,000. What does that cover? Garbage cans, garbage bags, brooms, dustpans, gloves for the volunteers, and disposable apron. I have a line item budget sheet, so I could go to a donor. I could go to a foundation and say, this is why I need $2,000. All right, I got a car. You got to pay for parking. So I need 5. I need 10,000. But if you have a budget that is planned out with your board, approved, signed, sealed, delivered. You can then deliver this to your funding pathways for them to then fund your business or fund your nonprofit or donate to your nonprofit. It's so the language is hard because you can't say fund because it's like, but so they can donate to your nonprofit, make a charitable contribution. Oh, I can't forget this one. We talked about this earlier. Hire a bookkeeper and an accountant. Yes, QuickBooks is great. I love QuickBooks, but it's always good to have an accountant. It's always good to have a bookkeeper for our businesses, just like your personal life. If you can afford it, make sure that's a budget line item. You want to have a tax advisor, CPA, someone on your team to handle those finances because we don't know everything. And honestly, your AI is only as good as the information that you input into it, right? So you could go act as an accountant and blah, blah, blah. And it's like, yeah, but I don't know your financials. So unless you upload 10 years of your financials into this system and let me calculate and process and you pay for the premium subscription of whatever AI you have, you're going to get general Googleable results from your AI. All right. This is big. This is big. This is big. Why? Because we're in the time we're in right now and money is tight right now. And I just want to caution every nonprofit out there, do not rely on government funding. Do not rely on government funding because it may not always be there. That is just a fact. So if your nonprofit is solely relied on government funding, when they don't have the funds and the government is shut down for some odd reason, then your nonprofit is suffering because you solely relied on that income resource. So that's why it's important to have an earned income opportunity for your nonprofit, because then you could be like, okay, that money isn't coming in from the city or the state or the Fed. They stopped the funds, but we still have these avenues coming in. We still have our private donors and our private foundations coming in. So don't solely rely on government funding. Okay? So 60 seconds, pitch time. And since you are I'm sorry, I know you're the nonprofit in the room. I would love to hear the nonprofit. 60 seconds, problem, solution, why it matters, what you need. And don't remember what I told Justin. Okay?
Sorry, let me think. Okay, so the problem is that single parents and guardians in the area might not have access to babysitting, daycare, or enrichment services for themselves and their kids. So the solution is that we would provide those services to their kids, summer enrichment and just summer camp programs for a fee that would help fund our career coaching and daycare services free of charge. It matters because it gives the parents like, ooh, words are getting hard. It gives parents like peace of mind when they go to work or have other things to do, that their children are learning or in a safe environment, as well as gives them a community and a way to boost their learning. And then we would need money to continue to fund those endeavors.
Perfect. Clap it up. Clap it up for your nonprofit. All right, now I have a question for you. How much money you need? Follow up.
Well, we would need money to
How much?
As much as you want to give.
There we go. Clap it up. Clap it up. As much as you want to give. That's the answer. As much as you want to get. Thank you for sharing. Thank you. Now, before I kind of get our mind right on money, I do want to say, once again, round of applause for the people who stood up and shared their business ideas, shared their pitch, because it's hard to get up and pitch. No matter how many times you practice, look, when I came in here, I was like, all right, cool, I can get myself ready, get in the game. It's hard to stand up in front of people and pitch your idea and share your dream and share your goals and future, right? So I want you all to practice and get comfortable with doing that. You have a competition right here coming up. They're going to want to hear your pitch. So definitely practice your pitch as much as you can, right? Elevator pitch, 60 seconds, 3 minutes, 5 minutes. Sometimes you go into a pitch competition and they're like, you have 1 minute to tell me what? And you prepared this whole deck slide situation. You got animations and everything. They say, yeah, cool. 1 minute. Tell me, gotta go, right? Inside scoop here, as an investor, when I was working as a principal for the fund I was in, I used to get pitch decks. Oh my goodness. I used to go to sleep, wake up, I have like 50, 70 decks in my email. This is facts. This is real myth or fact. This is fact, right? And my managing director, one of them, said, hey, you can't spend so much time on these decks because you're going to have a lot of emails and a lot of decks. Now, some people would say that investors spend about 30 seconds on the deck. I think it's a little over that because you still got to click it and go through it, but you do spend a relatively short time on the deck. So practice your one pager, practice your pitch. Short, boom, boom. If I walk up and I say, hey, I'm an angel investor, what do you do? Problem. Here's how I solve that problem. Here's what I'm looking for. Just straight to it. Because then I would go, or someone like myself would go, that is very interesting. Tell me more. Now you've been invited to a conversation. But if you're like, I'm like, yeah, you don't even know what you want to do. But you do know, but you aren't clear enough. Keep it simple, clear. The last slide, right? You're not clear enough on what you want to do. Right? So let's get into this money mindset. Profit does not equal greed. Financial success enables impact. The more you have, the more impact you can make. We just talked about Mackenzie Scott. Divorce did her well. None against her. But she continuously gives money and gives money. Right? Impact does not equal charity. Nonprofit requires sustainable models. Okay? Yes, it's a nonprofit. But like I said before, nonprofits are ran like businesses. If you let your nonprofit fumble, that is the end. Right? And then sustainability equals purpose plus profit. That is going to be the key to long-term growth and success. That's all I have. Thank you. All right, if you want to follow me on LinkedIn, check me out on LinkedIn. That's my LinkedIn profile. Oh, look at that. 612. How I do? How I do on time?
They say you did great, and they're the ones who count.
Awesome.
So any questions?
Now it's time to fire away. I really was getting through for the time because I love this part here. This part is where I get the most, I feel like is the most value out of any presentation. So if you have any questions, let me know. I can't see the people on Zoom, unfortunately. Thanks for joining anybody on Zoom, but questions, please ask them.
So I have a question, actually.
Yes.
You talked about crowdfunding. Crowdfunding is extremely competitive.
Yes.
And I've been told by people who do it that if you don't start off hot, you're basically knocked way down and it's hard to be seen.
Yep.
If they want to start crowdfunding, how should they prepare for that and increase their chance for success?
Perfect question. Absolutely perfect question. So here's a little strategy session you guys are going to get for free. Here's what you do. You start your campaign, make it beautiful, always offer an offering, okay? Rather that's a hat, a notebook, something, right? Then once you have your page up and you have your flow, how much you need, etc., you then take that link. I know it sounds crazy. You send it to everyone. You're going to get the most volume. You're going to get the most eyes and awareness, and then how the algorithm works by sending it to your classmates, your family, your coworkers. Those are, as we like to call them, I know so. I think about some of the terms we use is pretty bad, but easy targets. Okay? Because once you connect with the people close to you, that boosts your visibility. They put you in the forefront of the algorithm. And then that's showing that your crowdfunding campaign has momentum, right? So a strategy that I would advise is once you get it beautified, make sure all the details there. The more details, the better. The more details, the better. Then what you do is you go on social media, you go on LinkedIn, you go to your church, you go to your neighborhood watch, you go to the Eagles game, you come to programs like this and you say, hey, here's my Kickstarter. I am doing this, this, and that. Now, because I believe in community and I express and I emphasize community, if everyone here starts a Kickstarter, everyone here should follow each other. Everyone here should share that campaign. You guys are a cohort. You guys are a community here. So when one person started, y'all should start one. But if one person starts one, share it, respawn, $10, $5, whatever it is going to boost that algorithm for it to get more visibility and more eyes, right? Family, friends, co-workers, people you're close to, teammates. That's how you're going to really boost that campaign to get visibility on Kickstarter. Because it's a competition out there. It is a lot going on out there. And what are people doing? Exactly what I said. They were like, hey, I'm starting a Kickstarter. Here's the accelerator I attended. Here's the newsletter. And they just put it out there, right? That's how you could get that momentum going. Did that help? That answer the question? Cool. Yes. I like your shirt, by the way.
Thank you. I like yours too.
Thanks.
So, I'm new. I just came in.
Okay.
This is my first time in here, but I wanted to ask you a question about how you said money does not equal greed. If money is a limited resource that often determines like power and status, isn't greed an inevitable byproduct of how we use and value it?
One more time for that last part. If money is a limited resource and
if it's a limited resource and determines power and status, isn't it greed an inevitable byproduct of how we use and value it?
Love that question. What's your name?
Rohan.
Rohan?
Yes.
Thank you for that question. So everyone practices different philosophies. Everyone has a different ideal on money. I can share mine with you, if that's okay. Money is a tool. Money is not finite. That is a myth. Think about COVID. Think about the Federal Reserve printing money. The more you learn about money, the more you understand how money works, right? There is money out there. There's a millionaire created like every 5 minutes. It's just kind of crazy, right? It's how you get access to the money. So it's a mindset shift, right? So one, money is a tool. Two, money is everywhere. It's about how you go get the money. Now, some people use that tool for their intentive purposes. And it may look like greed. It may look like an advantage over others, right? Because they have the tool to have the access to do these things. So on the other side of that, there are people who have the tool that then do great things to help others because that is their mindset. of what they want to do with their money, right? So when you're looking at the sharks, as they call them, the whales of the financial market, their incentive is to make money, not only for themselves, but for their shareholders or their investors. That is their job. Because when you don't make money, you're out of here. But there are also people who make that money and turn around and say, this money is going to schools. This money is going to a basketball program. This money is going to Devon to clean the streets in the neighborhood, right? So it all depends on the individual philosophy of how they look at money. And again, I look at money as a tool, but when I do have money, because money fluctuates, like you said, money comes and go. I heard that. I try to invest back into my community. I try to help entrepreneurs and nonprofit entrepreneurs like yourselves with like my time here today. I give money to I'm on Kickstarter. I love Kickstarter. I'm like 10, 20, 1,000, 2,000. I support local artists. So it all depends on the individual and their philosophy on money. Because there is true. There are some people out there who can look, they on the greed side. They do a little bit too much, right? But when you change your mindset about it, you can really start sorting out the players who are greedy and those who are wanted and willing to make a change. Did that answer your question? Thanks. Yes.
A question around like motivation. Like, have you seen any trends in people? Have you seen people like get more motivated to kind of I don't know, like to work on an idea, or and also together with that, like if someone doesn't know exactly like what they want to do, but they're very inclined towards entrepreneurial ventures. Like I'm trying to start a new thing and I haven't figured out like exactly what the new thing should be. So I'm like, I guess when you're excited about it, when I'm excited about a new thing, like I was with my current business originally, like it's like motivating in itself. That draws it out of you. So I guess I don't even know what the question is, but like, have you seen the best avenue to like discovering something that's motivating and then getting motivated to get really into it?
Here you go. I think I'm following where you. I think I'm getting what you putting down, as they say.
Yeah.
What is the business idea that you have? What is the new business?
New business thing, I mean, so far what I've come up with is like a hydration tracking device.
Okay, cool. Boom. Hydration tracking device.
Mm-hmm.
What tracking devices exist out there right now?
There's a bunch of different stuff. There's water
Right,
bottles.
boom.
Stuff. Yeah.
Boom. There's a bunch of different stuff. You know those things because you just told me it's a bunch of different stuff.
Yeah.
Have you spoken to any of those companies?
No.
That should motivate. You already motivated. You fired up. You should be reaching LinkedIn, social, Twitter, X, whatever. Reach out to them, be like, hey, I'm interested in blah, 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 blah. How do you track the water filter capabilities of it and how you know how many liters is left inside a water bottle, this and that? I wonder, with your new product, your water bottle, I see that you have a temperature beaker that tracks this digitally through an app. How do you get the transfer over to this is what you're building. This is what you're excited about. So these questions should just flow and come naturally out of you. Curiosity. When you do that, I promise you, those founders, those product developers, the product managers, I used to be a product manager, those product managers, I'm like, I found my tribe. So they're going to be willing to answer your questions because they're excited too. They're going to be like, wow, no one ever asked me that question. They just want a free water bottle. So that's how you stay motivated. That's how you have to engage with your tribe. Okay. You have to be like, hey, if you're working on that, how am I engaged going? Like, not everybody could go to the conferences, but how am I going to the webinars, the Zooms, sessions like this, where it's like, we're talking about water tracking, or we're talking about tracking capabilities, because something you learn from out of that like seminar or that like session, you could be like, I didn't even think of, and I'm at a car GPS, like sales pitch thing. And it's like, I didn't even think of it that way. I could put that in the water tracking system like that.
Like curiosity and like about like all the details and weeds and
Right.
Yeah.
Being an entrepreneur, starting a business, being an entrepreneur, starting a nonprofit is hard. I'm not going to sit here and play games with y'all. It is hard. The motivation is going to come within and with the tribe you select. If you're around people like, oh, it's hard, like, I'm tired of going to these things. Homer Simpson, walk slowly, walk away slowly. You'll be like, all right, man, take it, because you're going to need that support. You're going to need that extra fuel. You only have so much energy in the tank. There's going to be some days where you'll be like, man, like, I feel like giving in. I feel like giving up. Your tribe is going to be there for you. Be like, I know how you feel. I was at that point. Or like, hey, let's go for a walk. Or like, just put it down for a second and let's revisit it. Maybe it's something we're not seeing. You're going to need that support to keep you motivated. But starting a business, starting a nonprofit, that motivation has to come from within. Hope that answered your question.
Cool. Yeah, totally.
Please.
First, thank you for your presentation.
Yeah.
As an angel investor, this is the first time I hear this concept. You deal with a lot of entrepreneurs, right? So, what did you notice, like common mistakes that they do when they first start? Like anything on top of your mind, if you can share with us.
Yeah. So the most common mistake I've seen from entrepreneurs, common is a funny word. So I'll say this. The things that I point out is direction. I say, okay, because when you're an angel investor, you're really starting in, like, as they call it, seed round, friends and family, pre-seed. These are the terms they use in funding. So I would come in and say, hey, I believe in the idea that you have, or you may have a product already. And I'm like, you know what? I see where this can go. So then I would spend time with an entrepreneur and they'll say, hey, like, I'm thinking this and, rocket ship. And then I'm like, okay, bring it in here. Come in. The idea is going too wide. Or they may kind of like shelter themselves and be like, oh, I don't know. Maybe, just a few stores. And I'm like, well, I see this across America. How do we scale this idea? How do we scale this product or this service so that you can then serve more people, so that you can help more people, right? So that's the most common thing I see in the stages that I'm in, is just either an entrepreneur is like, I want the moon. And it's like, well, settle for the stars. Or then it's like, well, I don't know, maybe if that idea will work, maybe. It's like, but you're doing it. Think bigger. I know that sounds crazy, I know contradictory, but it's like, yeah, it's like, think bigger, but know your limits. I'm a realist, so sorry. Yeah, yes. Hope did that answer your question? Thank you. Yep.
Great presentation. I think they told us last week they were saving the best for last, and yeah. So you definitely delivered.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
So my project helps aging Black and Brown populations store their most important information and documents. What strategies would you have as far as a new startup with building trust in the community?
Yes, that is. So I'm just going off the top of the head without knowing much about it, but when you think about people engaging in a new app or new website or new program, again, I say this all the time. What is the incentive? I know it sounds very like tit for tat, or like, what do I get from this? But that's the game we're in. So what I tend to do is put a face or put a person, put a human in front of that product and that service. Like, what you want to do is beautiful. When you said that, I thought of, there's like two companies that I'm thinking of, but the main one that I'm thinking about is like Ancestry.com. It's like you could go on there and have a whole lineage of ideas. The other night, my beautiful lady Brianna, she's back there, and we were at the library company, and they were saying they offer services to trace back your lineage on American history and things like that. And it's like, well, how do I trust you with that information? And it's like, well, how does preserving this information help you? That's, I know it's like sales, but it's like, well, here's what you could do with that information. Do you have information on your father or your grandfather? Do you have a will? Like was something passed down to you? Do you have an ancestral guidance? Let me help you with that. And it's like, yeah, I didn't really think of it that way. Or they'd be like, well, I had this, box of photos since forever. And it's like, it passed it down to whoever wants to be like, well, how can we make sure that these photos don't get lost in a fire or these documents don't get like, now you can really sell that idea because this is a common everyday thing. And unfortunately, the fires in California that happened that we all know about, people lost a lot. They fire safe box didn't work. It didn't work. So think of it that way. You have to, again, mindset. I'm always strong on mindset. You have to switch it and say, hey, this is how it can help you. Yes, I will love your business. Yes, I will want to help you. But you have to first see the value that it provides and it gives you to believe in me, right? Uber. It's like, I believe that a car will come and take me where it needs to take me, right? Now, granted, Uber has its things, but the service that is providing me is transportation. So I'm trusting that this will get me where I need to go. Why? Because I'm looking for that service. So just switch it that way. Just, everybody's cautioned about everything, right? Sometimes I don't even know who I'm talking to on the phone. I'm like, operator, right? So it just be like, put a human in front of the product and service. I know earlier I said before, right? When you're thinking about your company, it's like, we provide, not I. But the we can always be a human. You be like, we are here to help you. We have this product that will help you, right? Whatever you're building, whatever nonprofit you're creating, it has to solve a societal problem. That is how, I'm just telling you straight up, that is how you're going to win. If you're not solving a problem, pack it up. You have to solve a problem, a societal problem. And if you're a nonprofit, you have to solve a problem, but it has to be mission driven. This has to be a burning desire. Like you want to help those moms who are at work. I hear the way that you explain it, that this is a desire that you really want to help the kids. You want to help the families. You want to help family dynamics. You believe in that. When you believe in that and you pitch that, I'll say, here's $500. I don't know what it's going to do for you, but this, hopefully it helps because I believe in that too. When you say I have this service that is going to protect your heirlooms and just information and stuff, like, it's like, okay, I want to protect this for my future generations. I want to protect this for, whatever I want to protect it for. I'm willing to bet on you. Cool? Yes. So, by the way, I'm answering these questions. I hope by people asking more questions, I'm doing a good job answering these questions.
Yes, you're doing a good job.
Thank you.
So I wanted to ask if you have any specific advice for a company that's looking to get other companies as clients and how to kind of get the trust of bigger corporations to use your services.
Okay. What's your name?
Kiara.
Stand up. 60 seconds, 60-second pitch. Let's hear it. Let's hear it. Problem, solution, why it matters, what you need.
So the problem I identified was that in corporate Jamaica, the employee attraction and retention rate is going down because the corporate life is not attractive to most people in Jamaica. And the solution that I identified was having a consulting company that uses neuroscience to deliver its solutions to customers. And why it matters is that it's going to be considering the brain science behind why people are actually attracted to certain jobs, and that will help companies to then reevaluate their internal structures so that they can attract employees to their companies. And we need money.
That's right. Clap it up for your entrepreneur. Clap it up. Clap it up. Clap it up. So your question is one more time.
Yes. So based on that.
Wait a second. Now that you've given me that, think about your question. Now tell me what your question was again.
So for the clients that we'd be having, those companies that are having their employee retention and attraction issues, how would we then kind of market our consulting services to them?
You see how your question changed?
Yes.
That's why I wanted you to do that. So I know it sounds too good to be true in a way. What you want to do is approach companies that have their retention is high, right? And what do I mean by that? We see it on the news. We could go to a corporation like you can actually do this. You can go to businesses. You're mainly targeted in Jamaica, right?
Yes.
Okay. So you could go to businesses or corporations in Jamaica and you can ask them, build a relationship with HR, build a relationships with ops or the people person that's there, right? Chief of staff, right? Build a relationship with them and say, hey, I understand your retention is high. People are leaving. And I know that you want to keep people because that's going to help your business. We can help you with that. What we do is find these people and we work with you to figure out why your retention is so high. So there's both sides to this. Your services will be offering a operational kind of model to understand the company as to why retention is so hard. Is it HR? Is it the work conditions? Is the AC too cold? Is the heat too hot? You need to figure it out. Do you provide lunch or no? Right? Then you have a pool of workers. Now we're getting into workforce where people are looking for jobs, but they don't know where to go. Or the application process is too long, or I got to wait in line, it's too hot outside, or it's too cold outside, and I don't feel like doing that. So you are playing the most genius idea in business history ever created. You are playing the middleman. You are the connector. You are the conduit between the company and workforce labor people, right? So you can say, hey, company, your retention is high. I know you need people to do the work. I have people. Okay, I can attract these people to your company, but first, well, I can attract these people to your company. That's one stream of revenue. Second stream of revenue. I notice your retention is high. Why is that? Allow my team to come in and analyze and data and management things, the big words.
Yeah.
To understand why your retention is high. And then you'll find that out with consulting services fee. And then that company will recommend you to another company, and then you're building your portfolio. And then, but you don't just go to one company, you go to a bunch of them and you land that first client. And when you get that first client, you know, I'm not going to swear, you work your A off. Mm-hmm. And that's when you really lock in the deal and lock in your services. Because then these companies are gonna start talking. They're gonna start be like, hey, I know a person you could talk to, and that's how you could grow and scale. Did that help answer your question?
Yes, a lot. Thank you very much.
Right. Whoo! They're firing them off. Hey, clap it up for the man. Clap it up for the man. Clap it up for the man. Clap it up for the man.
Hi.
Alright.
First of all, thank you for your time. I
Yep.
just wanted to understand when companies meet angel investors, how does that happen? We see it in Shark Tank, but that's obviously TV. But how does it happen in most of the cases?
Yeah. So the thing with I'm gonna make this little funny thing. I don't mean to insult anybody in their religion, but the thing with angel investors, they're like angels. They just pop up. They just, they just be like, hey, you got a good idea. But you find these angel investors in spaces like this, in like pitch competitions and network events, and so I'm gonna be straight up with y'all. The network events y'all don't want to go to, that's where they are. That's where they're hanging out at, because they're looking for deals. So if you're like, I don't feel like going, and like I gotta register, it's free, but I just don't feel like going, you may be missing out on an opportunity. You're in the early stage. This is the eat what you kill phase. So you got to go out there into the marketplace and really get active, right? And what is that going to do for you? It's going to clean up your pitch. It's going to really solidify who you're, and then people will start talking. So when you're like, where do I find these angels investors? I'm not sure what was told about my bio, but y'all probably wouldn't have thought I was an angel investor, right? I just said it. Y'all showed up today. If you didn't show up today, you wouldn't have known, right? So what I would advise is when you're in network opportunities and you are, out and about pitching your business, you never know who you're talking to at these places, right? Because then, let's say you don't meet an angel investor, but you meet someone like how Bonnie connected me to Alan, that connected me here, right? That's how networks work. Because it's like, hey, I heard about this person. They have a really great idea. You should talk to them. And then they'd be like, hey, my name is Devon, and like my friend said you had a great idea. Can I hear about it? You'd be like, yeah, sure, blah, blah, blah. So who are you? And it's like, I'm an angel. You're like, oh, wow. Right? And it happens. So does that make sense? Yeah.
I also had a follow-up question, if that's
Yeah.
okay. When you're looking for investing in a company, what do you look for? Is it gut feeling as well, or is there a framework that you follow?
Yep. So for me personally, every investor is different. Me personally, I look at the fight and the entrepreneur. Do you really want this? Or this is just something you like to do? There's a difference, right? 2, I look at the product or the service. Is this an actual scalable product or service? Are you actually providing something that people need, right? Not something that's 3, is it already in existence, right? It doesn't have to be new under the sun, right? There's how many bread companies in the bread aisle, but it has to be unique enough to get my attention, right? If he's saying that he's doing water tracking the water, but I never heard of that. I know things exist, but I never heard of that. I'm interested to know, what is it? What technology are you using? How do you track? Now I'm like, ooh, that sounds interesting. You've attracted me to what you're doing, right? So that's what I would say is really the fight, the hunger in the entrepreneur. Is that product or service scalable, right? Because I'm an investor. I want my return. Let's be straight up, right? And then one thing that is very important that I look at as well is how can I help you? Because quite honestly, if I feel like I can't help you, I'm not a good fit for you. I don't want to waste your time. I don't want to waste my time, right? I'll pass you off to a resource because I never leave my founders hanging. But are we a good fit? Do we click, right? A lot of people take big money from investors and it's like, yeah, but I don't talk to them. They don't talk to me. They'll never post me and say they're proud of my investment, or do we click? Because if you click that, that fosters a better relationship, and that's what brings the more nourishment to the growth of your company. Cool. All right. It was one last question. Alan said it was just 2 questions, so that's it. Okay. One more. I'll answer your question later, like later. Okay. I'll sit around here. We can talk. All right. One more. Who got the mic? I can't see. Oh, okay.
To give it to whoever.
Oh, that was the last question? Everybody okay? All right, answer your question real quick. Really quick. Sorry, Alan. I'm on fire right now. I'm on fire. Let's go.
All right. So I wanted to ask you, what do you define as success, and do you feel successful?
Wow. My definition of success is reaching the goal that you set out for yourself, no matter how big or small, right? Accomplishing, achieving a goal that you set for yourself. You can be successful many times over. How do I define my success? I get to wake up every day when I feel like it. I used to work in corporate America. 9 to 5 is not a real thing. It's like 7 to whatever you feel like getting, just like whatever, right? Today, I've been fortunate enough to make smart investments, save money, et cetera, where I wake up and I'm like, what I feel like doing today? Or I tell people, don't contact me before 10. It's over. You get me after 10, I'm gonna start replying to emails and stuff like that. But I worked really hard to get there, and I made those small wins and the small successes to get me to that goal. I still feel like there's more I can achieve because I've set new goals, right? So what is it successful for me to help a founder, help a startup, help people like y'all get to the next level? That's how I'm going to deem my next milestone of success. Thank you for asking me that question.
Thank you.
Thanks. All right.
All right. So what's your name? Yeah. Cedric. So you sort of told the fib when you said that I said, we were saving the last for the best. And don't tell anyone else, but we probably did. So, all right, great. I just want to reinforce one comment. Devin has some very cold pizza. Devon, right. Devon, he's never going to come in and talk again because I can't pronounce his name, and it's 2 syllables. Devon has some very cold pizza waiting in my office, but Devon mentioned one thing they wanted to emphasize, and that is, and most of you aren't at the point yet, but as soon as you start your enterprise, set up separate business bank accounts from personal. Because at the end of the day, if you don't, you could lose anything you have. And it's very simple, but it's something a lot of people forget about. So even if you're a sole proprietor, set them up separately. Okay? So let's give another hand to Devon. Okay, so real quickly, is everyone in here submitting Monday night? Cedric, you're one of the 2 people. I'm specifically looking at one of 3 people. Yes? Okay. The gentleman next to you, what's your name? Damien? This is so embarrassing. I put people on the spot. Damien, are you entering? Oh, Cedric, would you talk to him, please? Are you entering? No. All right, we'll talk to you afterwards. Are you entering? Yes. All right, good move. Okay, that's it. Thanks. I'm going to warm up Devon's pizza and even some from Brianna, and you could talk to him in the meanwhile.